And welcome back for episode 10. Took a little bit of a break between episodes here so that eSIM could release version 2.64 of Steel Beast Pro PE, which they've done. It's a very nice upgrade, lots of new playable vehicles, lots of new features. So I wanted to continue the tutorial with those in place. We won't necessarily see a lot of them, but some of them will be useful, I think. All right, in the act of continuing to play test as I go along here, during the break I found a couple of things in the scenario as we currently have it that don't work as well as I would like, so we're going to go ahead and change them now. One thing I noticed was that as vehicles come up this route over here to guard this other bridge, they were jumping off the road in various places, and finally when I ended up zooming in close enough, I could see that even though I had kind of drawn a nice straight line here, and typically they will follow the road within 30 degrees. I think the fact that if we click on this, and you'll notice there's a vertex right here, I think because there's a vertex on this other road, they were actually not following the brown road and jogging off into the open ground and then heading back onto the road. So I wanted to fix that, so we're just going to grab this black vertex and kind of put it back on the road somewhere, and I think that looks pretty good. And you may want to do this in other places as well, just sort of check around and make sure that, wherever the route is, that it looks like it's not in conflict with any other roads. Within 30 degrees on a straight segment, it should be fine, but if there's another road around, they appear to get confused. All right, the other thing I noticed was that if you recall last time, we put in a retreat route from the first waypoint here where they're guarding the bridge back to just behind the road here, and we said that if they come under direct fire, retreat back to here. Well, I noticed a couple of problems with that. The first one is we set the route to be, if this unit is 1-6 alpha and you're under direct fire, then retreat. The problem comes in is when 1-6 alpha gets destroyed, now the retreat route doesn't really apply to 4-6 alpha anymore. So probably what we should have done there was to use unit this rather than unit and a specific number. But I also found out that because the open area between the trees is so narrow here, the other vehicle of the section often gets up in the woods here and can't retreat very well. It takes him quite a long while to wend his way through the trees, and worse than that, when he's doing it, it's like he goes completely blind. So he'll be backing up through these woods here, and there'll be M1s driving along the road, and he completely ignores them, and of course they just blow him up. So the retreat route really doesn't work very well in this circumstance where you have this narrow road through the woods. So essentially we're just going to get rid of it. So what I want to do is grab this waypoint here. Your waypoint may have a different number, but you should have one in the same place. So we're just going to grab this, and here's our retreat route. So we're just going to delete the route, which is going to leave us the empty waypoint, and then you can just click on the waypoint and delete that. And I'm just hitting the delete key to do that. Okay, so that leaves us with just the route up to waypoint 5. So what we want to do is pull this waypoint back to about where the other one was, and we'll sort it all out here in a minute. But you'll notice now that the route for 4-6 alpha to go out to optionally waypoint 7 doesn't really fit anymore. So again, we have to click it and drag some of the vertexes around so that it makes a little better fit. So something like that should be just fine. Okay. So just make a couple small adjustments there to make that match. And then of course we want to set his cone of observation so it's down the road. And move the waypoint around just slightly. Until we get a transparent view here. And some of this is simply playing with it just a little bit. Okay, so right about like that. So now when Blue rolls across the bridge, if he comes this way after getting past 4-6 Alpha, assuming that 4-6 Alpha is there, of course, as he comes around the corner here, he's going to be in for a little bit of a nasty surprise. And that's exactly what we want. Now, one other thing I thought about doing here was, let's say we have 1-6 Alpha with his 2 tanks waiting here, and Blue doesn't come this way. Well, we've essentially just wasted 2 of a relatively small number of tanks that are going to sit over here forever and do nothing. So let's go ahead and create a route from here. So if we right-click on the waypoint, do New Route, we want to make it a march route because they got to go down the narrow road again. And once again, just kind of follow the road along. And we're going to take them down to waypoint 10 here. 10 on my screen. Obviously yours could potentially be different depending on if you've done any editing or not. But for now, this will be a good place to take them. All right. If we now kind of just find that route, and it's going to be, we may have to pull this out of the way a little bit here so we can see it. Unfortunately, we'll have to fiddle with that again later. Okay, so one of these routes here is going to be the one with no condition on it, and that's this one here. So you'll notice that it doesn't have an embark if, but we're going to go ahead and set one. So let's go ahead and do an embark if. And what I want to do with the embark if here is very simple. I want to just say if the mission timer is greater than 30 minutes, go ahead and take off on this route. So I'm just using the left mouse button here to roll this counter up to 30 minutes. You'll notice I left clicked here to change it from less than to greater than, and mission time is fine. And it's just going to be that simple. We could get more complicated, but I'm not going to. I'll leave that to you as an exercise if you want to try to work out some other conditions that might be more interesting. But this one will do what we want. Okay, so let's take and slide waypoint 5 back into place. And once we get the clear circle right about there, should be good. All right, so that takes care of having 2 tanks left over here doing absolutely nothing. One other thing I wanted to talk about in this episode, which again is going to be kind of brief because I'm rather busy with the holidays, as I suspect most of you are. And of course I'm playing the heck out of the new version. If you recall, we had 4-6 Alpha set up so that he either went here to waypoint 7 or he went out here to waypoint 8. If we look at that, the route, for example, out to 7, we take a look at its conditions as a refresher. So we have it, you know, if you're 4-6 Alpha and your X1 variable is 0 to 50, all right? So I want you to remember that. So basically it's 0 to 50 going this way and 50 to 100 roughly going this way. All right, let's go ahead and save and test the mission really quickly. I want to show you something once we're in there. So we'll do test. And actually I'm going to have to kill the Fraps video at this point because it will crash Steel Beasts if Fraps is running when you try to go into the test mode. So I'm going to stop the video and I'll join you back in the mission in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and click yes here and let it go ahead and start up. And we're back. All right, let's switch over to the terrain display for a second. We're going to zoom out here just a little bit so we get a little better view. All right, now I've put in just temporarily a couple of routes for Blue to follow. So the Blue CO vehicle is going to come down the main road down this way, cross this road over the bridge, and then up here to this railroad bridge. And the 2 Alpha unit's going to come down this way and over the bridge that we're guarding. All right, so let's go ahead and start the mission. All right, so while the mission's running, if we hit F5, we can go back to the map. As we've seen before, we can use the choose side button to choose which side we want to look at. And if we hit F5 to go back to the map again, so under File, we have the choice Mission Debugger. Now, if we click that, it's going to immediately pause the game and give us this debug monitor window. Now, the nice thing about this is that you can see that we can see every one of the various X variables that are currently set up. So when SteelBeast starts, it creates 63 variables, numbered X1 to X63, and populates them, as we've discussed earlier. And as we saw back in the editing phase, I asked you to remember the number that we were using for X1. So we had said that X1, if it's anything between 0 and 50, 46 alpha is going to go to waypoint 7. And if it's anything from 51 to 99, he's going to go out to waypoint 8. Well, lo and behold, it's 44. So we know exactly where 46 alpha should go now. So being able to look at these variables is going to be really helpful when you're doing scenario design so that you can watch what's happening. Now, we don't have much else in the game yet, the scenario that we're designing, so the rest of these buttons won't do a whole lot yet. But you can see that eventually we'll be able to look at what events are happening, what various conditions have been fulfilled within the game logic, what's the current scoring of the game, and who owns particular regions. Now, we're not doing any of that yet, so all those fields are blank, but we'll see them later as we go along. So I thought it was important to show you that. That's brand new with version 2.64. And frankly, in my mind, it's worth the cost of the upgrade right there. Now, if we click OK, we'll go back to the game. You can hear things start running again. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is if we scroll the map down a little bit. Let's say we right-click over here somewhere, and we do View. Okay, now we're in essentially a map view mode, but what we have now is the ability to move the camera independently of the vehicles, and this is also new with 2.64. So it allows you to essentially fly around the battlefield and see what your units are doing, which is something that previously you couldn't do in the PE version whatsoever. So by using the Q key, I can raise my viewpoint, Z lowers my viewpoint, and then W, A, S, and D allow me to fly around. The faster or more often I hit the W key, the faster I go. The S key will stop me. The mouse pans my view. So I can basically keep speeding up till I can follow these vehicles at almost exactly the speed they're going. If I get going too fast, I can hit X to slow down a little or even back up eventually. So I have full ability to move around the map now while the mission is in test. Now, you can only do this in the mission editor. Don't think you can do this in the game. That would be cheating. But in the mission editor now, it's very helpful to be able to watch how the battle is developing and see what your units are doing. So, for example, if I was concerned that maybe the back half of 6 Alpha was going to run into the front half, I could see that 1-6 Alpha back here is well behind 4-6 Alpha, who's up here. Now, there's no limit to where I can go here, so if I simply fly off over this way, and I can get going pretty fast, you see. Okay, I can scroll out onto the map anywhere I want. And if you come up this way, here's Objective Alpha. Okay, so I can actually see what's going on here at the objective while my other vehicles are moving around. If I don't want to fly around, I can simply go back to the map and do a view right-click. If you haven't noticed, look at those nice new bridge models, also new in 2.64. They've really done some nice upgrades in the graphics. But if we continue going north here at a fairly high rate of speed, well, what do you know? Here comes CO Alpha and 2 Alpha. All right, so we've got blue units on the move. So I can actually see where blue is and what they're doing. And again, if I want to just quickly move around, I can go F5, go back to view here, for example. hit the F1 key, and I'm back in the game. And sure enough, here comes 4-6 Alpha. All right, so I thought that would be helpful for you to know. It makes testing your scenario a lot easier when you can zip around and see what various units are doing, see that they're moving or not moving in the way that you wanted them to. All right, here's one of the areas where we just fixed the path on the road where the units had been jogging off to the left. So it looks like we got that fixed just fine. All right, let's go back to the map. All right, and I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Happy holidays to everyone. That probably won't have another episode until sometime in early January. I'll get episode 11 out, and I think we're pretty much done over here now in this area. We'll probably move over and start working on the rest of the red units over here in the west and getting them sorted out around the objective so that we can actually play the mission and see how it plays out.